With 4 stages already being confirmed, plus 2 quite mysterious level teams, I started wondering what other stages could return in Shadow Generations. So I went looking for answers by playing every single Shadow game with unique stages, and I mean every single one, to see which stage from each game has the highest chance of coming back. Of course, we begin with the game that introduced our favorite ultimate life form, Sonic Adventure 2. Strangely though, he only got 4 levels in this game, 2 of which are already confirmed to return: Final Chase and Radical Highway. Merged into the stage we already have full gameplay of, Space Colony Arc, so that makes me doubt we'll even see another location from SA2. But since it was Shadow's debut, it's not entirely unlikely. Both options have unique features. White Jungle has these vines that launch you and invisible loops, and Skyrail is full of, well, rails, and has these unique helicopter springs, though overall I think White Jungle has the upper hand. Skyrail has a pretty unique theme, taking place in a canyon and having some spookiness. But there is already a stage confirmed to return that takes place on rails in the sky: Rail Canyon. White Jungle is also just more iconic since it happens right before the famous fight with Sonic. We move on to the next big game, Shadow at a Roll, but this one is kind of weird.
I'm coming on you guys!
I didn't realize they were those kind of friends. Besides that, Shadow's buddies tag along with him and you control all 3 of them at once, so you could argue these aren't really Shadow levels, though some of them are quite important to his story, so it would make sense for them to return still. Rail Canyon / Bullet Station has already been confirmed, but they definitely could pull more teams from Sonic Heroes. Maybe it will be like Space Colony Arc Act 1, where it merges into a different team halfway through, so we're only left with 6 possible options. Seaside Hill is definitely a no-go, since it's already in Sonic Generations. Grand Metropolis would just make more sense, but there are a lot of other city-themed levels we'll talk about later that make more sense to be added. Eggfleet is a pretty cool final stage, and the second act has these platforms that fall once you touch them, so Shadow's new Chaos Control ability could stop them from falling. Hang Castle would be cool as well, with it being one of the few spooky levels in Sonic. It has some more puzzly gimmicks, which would be cool to see translated into a modern game. Then there's Frog Forest, which is probably one of the most unique Sonic themes. I love the calming music and aesthetic, and the frogs that make it rain and grow the plants, and the evil frogs that make it rain acid and kill the plants are pretty cool elements in this stage. Maybe Shadow's Chaos Control ability could stop the frogs from being such a dick by freezing the rain in place. Though there's one theme that makes the most sense to me, and that's actually Casino Park. A lot of people missed having a casino themed stage in Generations since it's a staple of Sonic. I know that Pinball DLC doesn't count, so Shadow Generations could make up for it by bringing back Casino Park. Besides that, a lot of elements in this stage make sense for Shadow's new Chaos Control ability, like these dice that move up and down. Maybe the stopping of time could allow you to walk on the pinball tables instead of rolling, though I'm personally more a fan of Frog Forest and Hang Castle. Casino Park is also really cool and makes the most sense to me. Okay, finally, it's time for Shadow to shine. In the first ever game where he's the main character, Shadow XS. Yeah, what you are looking at is an official Flash game that was playable on the 4Kids website as a tie-in to Sonic X. There's also Sonic XS, which this game is basically a reskin of. It only features 1 level, where you have to complete it in 60 seconds. But it took me 30 minutes because of the abysmal controls. And these fucking robots that shoot at random. Who thought it was a good idea for these robots to shoot not in a pattern, but at random points? The only thing in this level is platforms, and these robots were called E23 Missile Wrist. And thematically it's pretty weird. It literally looks like we're in hell, with a red sky, red and grey clouds, and red platforms. Yeah, this is pretty much hell. Wait, why am I even analyzing this level? Why would they ever make a callback to this random Flash game? If they actually bring back this stage from Shadow XS, my mind would be f***ing blown. So let's just actually talk about Shadow the Hedgehog, which has a whopping 23 levels, though they're split into 13 different teams, 2 of which take place inside and outside of the Space Colony arc, which is obviously in Shadow Generations already. So let's start with a pretty good contender, Westopolis / Lethal Highway / Central City. This is the first area you explore in the game, and you need to go through it at least 10 times to get the last story. I think you could say it's pretty iconic. It's also the first level in which you meet Black Doom, who will have a major role in Shadow Generations. Then there's Glyphic Canyon / Sky Troops, which is a pretty cool team, but has one thing going against it. It's a canyon. Though it is very different from Rail Canyon, taking place more so in the ruins, and Sky Troops having Eggman's ships flying around as well. A stage that's completely unique though is Digital Circuit, one of the coolest level teams in all of Sonic. It takes place inside of a computer. I love it when games do that, and it's full of cool gimmicks like these security lights that guns set up and that pull you in when they catch you. It would be a war crime not to bring this back. Though it does have some strong competition, like Circus Park, a kind of casino themed level with more amusement park and circus elements, and Prison Island, which is the aftermath of the explosion in Sonic Adventure 2. Cryptic Castle is pretty neat as well, being a spooky themed level, but then again there are lots more iconic spooky themed levels. Death Ruins feels kinda similar to Glyphic Canyon to me, though it's still forgettable in my opinion, and there are definitely stronger options to choose from, like Gun Fortress. 2 stages in this game have you infiltrating Gun's base, after having them be your enemy in Sonic Adventure 2 and then being the ones who killed Maria. It's kinda cool to get revenge on them. With Shadow ending up working for Gun later, it could create a cool dynamic in Shadow Generations. Maybe Black Doom could manipulate Shadow to turn against Gun once again. A not so strong contender is Iron Jungle. I'm pretty sure it just takes place on Prison Island again, but on a part that Eggman built, and it's basically just iron platforms in the sky. Lava Shelter is a little more interesting, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. A basic infiltration of Eggman's base, just featuring lava this time. Finally, there's the Black Comet, which is basically Black Doom's territory. With him being the main villain of Shadow Generations, this would make a lot of sense as a final level, though it isn't as cool as some of the other locales in my opinion. Out of all of these, honestly, I think Gun Fortress has the highest chance of returning. It just has the most significance to Shadow's story, and it's a decently interesting location. Though since this is literally the Shadow game, I think it's likely we'll see multiple locations from it return. So if they bring back a second one, yes! Digital Circuit has to return. It's just too cool not to, come on. Westopolis and Black Comet are definitely a close third place though. Okay, after that I've had enough of shooting guns for now. Oh shit. So turns out we have to talk about another obscure Shadow game. But where does this game even come from? In the 2000s, Sega had a gaming subscription service in Japan called Sonic Cafe for mobile phones, which were still flip phones at the time. Every once in a while they would put out a new simple mobile game for anyone subscribed to the service, one of which was Shadow Shoot. With it being so obscure, I very highly doubt they'll bring anything back from this game, but let's theorize anyways. There are 7 unique zones that all have the same gameplay of dodging obstacles and shooting. The first stage is Diamond Highway, which is probably the stage most people will have played, since not everyone is a maniac that actually beats Shadow Shoot, so since it's the most well known, it would kind of make sense for them to bring it back. But it also has a lot going against it. There are already a bunch of city levels throughout the franchise, and it's not really a uniquely themed stage overall, with spike balls and helicopters as enemies. Most of the levels are just your average video game tropes, like snow and forest, but a few stand out, like Peridot Tunnel and especially Amethyst Castle. Just running through a castle would be cool as a level, but it being entirely entirely made out of amethyst would make it even better. Which rich motherfucker made a whole castle out of amethyst? But since this is such an obscure game, I still think it's very unlikely for Amethyst Castle to return, but it would be incredibly cool. But before we continue, a quick message from our sponsor, me. In celebration of the fearless year of Shadow, I'll be uploading Shadow related videos on this channel for the next couple months. From challenges to ranking videos, basically any Shadow related topic you can think of. So if you want to see all that, hit that little button known as the subscribe button. And don't forget to ring the bell as well. And also let me know in the comments what Shadow related topics you want to see. Now let's get back to the video. This is a fucking masterpiece. So I had never played through Shadow's story before this video. And to my surprise, I was actually really invested in the story. I really wanted to keep playing because I wanted to know what happened next. With Mephiles trying to manipulate Shadow by telling him that in the future, the world he's been protecting all this time will turn on him and lock him up because he's too powerful. And Shadow growing from that and saying this at the end?
The world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Even though the levels were a little hit or miss, I really enjoyed this experience. Speaking of the levels, which ones are going to be in Shadow Generations? Well, obviously Kingdom Valley is going to be in it since it's already been confirmed. So we've got 7 more options. And since Crisis City is already in Sonic Generations, it's also a no-go. White Acropolis could be a cool pick, but it doesn't have too much going on in it really. It's cool you're infiltrating a base, but there just isn't a lot to work with besides snow. The polar opposite of this level is Flame Core, which is a little similar to Crisis City actually, with it being fire themed, but it takes place in a volcano instead. Though I think other levels have more potential due to them being more important to the story, like Aquatic Base. This is where Shadow and Silver go back in time to seal Mephiles into the Scepter of Darkness, and being in an underwater base is pretty cool. They could make this look very pretty with modern graphics. Dusty Desert is the location where Shadow faces off against Mephiles for the last time, so this stage could be a cool build up to that fight. It also has tons of cool gimmicks, like these sand waves that you could stop with the Chaos Control. Wave Ocean wouldn't make too much sense in my opinion, it's more of a Sonic level with not much going on in Shadow's version. Radical Train on the other hand is super memorable. Trains are already super cool, and now you have to stop Eggman's train. There are cool conveyor belt gimmicks, which you already know are good for the Chaos Control ability. Though if I would have to guess, I'd say Dusty Desert is the most likely still, just because of its iconic moments. After that, we had a little spin-off series that Shadow was playable in, Sonic Rivals, a game where you race against each other on foot in 2D levels. Wait, why aren't there more Sonic games where you race each other? This is the most obvious concept for a Sonic game ever. Well, I guess we got Sonic Rivals. If any stage would be picked from Sonic Rivals, I would say it would be Sky Park. It's themed after a theme park, which is always cool. This one in particular takes place on the roller coasters mostly, but what's a little more likely to me is that they make use from its sequel. I actually own Sonic Rivals 2, so I have some nostalgia for it. Not that I don't own Sonic Rivals 1, I played it completely legally of course. Overall, I guess Blue Coast is the most likely to be added since it's the most unique and also the first stage in Sonic Rivals 2. After that, Shadow wasn't playable for a while in Sonic games. He was kind of in Sonic and the Black Knight, but that wasn't actually Shadow, it was Sir Lancelot, an alternate universe version of Shadow with completely different morals. Though this all changed in 2017. Although Shadow wasn't playable in the main story, he had 3 DLC levels to call his own. And with the newest trailer, it seems like they're bringing back enemy territory, also known as City. Ah yeah, I've always wanted to go to City. I heard it as buildings. So the only 2 options left would be Eggman's facility, which basically takes place on water slides the whole time, and virtual reality, which takes place in Oh no. Okay, let's not panic now. They're not bringing back Green Hill again. No way. They know everyone is sick of it. We'll probably just have the city come back. And that's all the Sonic games Shadow is playable in. So let's say 3 more zones will be brought back for Shadow Generations. Of the possible ones we discussed, I think those 3 will be Gun Fortress, Dusty Desert, and of course, Digital Circuit. Yeah! Shadow the Hedgehog has so many stages to choose from, and it's literally the Shadow game. Gun plays a big role in Shadow's life, so Gun Fortress makes a lot of sense. Digital Circuit is just so cool it has to come back, and Dusty Desert from Sonic 06 houses one of the most important Shadow moments. Of course, I can't tell the future, so this is all just speculation. For all I know, they'll bring back Amethyst Castle from Shadow Shoot and blow my mind like a nuke went off in it. I guess we'll see soon enough. But before I go, I hope you all enjoyed the video.